Joining me now while we continue to look at the helicopter taking off, Adam Posen, the president of the Peterson Institute for International Economics. Thank you, sir, for bearing with us as we watch what the events taking place. You served on the MPC, which is the equivalent to the Bank of England's Monetary Policy Committee. Arriving in the UK like this, trade. Adam, trade is so crucial. A lot of this pomp and circumstance is designed to make sure that the UK is in the most favourable position. Would you agree?
Yes, absolutely, Richard. And former Ambassador Mandelson, as you described, was key to this charm offensive. And the UK made the call that if they were in first and made the deal, they would do best. And they've done relatively well amidst all the threats that Trump has made to others. And as you said, Starmer, like Ursula von der Leyen in the European Commission, like eventually Mark Carney in Canada, like the new prime minister in Japan, all have to suffer the domestic slings and arrows of sucking up to Trump as part of the deal. And the one point I would raise, though, is it's not just trade. I think Trump may come back with demands on the UK for investment in the US, for joint military production, and for rescinding their digital tax.
Wow. So there'll be an enormous amount. I mean, I love your phrase that there's only so much sucking up you can do when there's a price to be paid on the other end. I want to talk about the FOMC meeting starting tomorrow, Adam. I'm not sure. I'm going to show a graph. I'm going to show our viewers exactly the FOMC, the composite makeup. Now, here you have the makeup of it. Now, at the last meeting, you had Christopher Waller and you had Michelle Bowman, both voting for rate cuts. The rest of them all decided not to cut rates. But now, of course, we have Stephen Myron, who looks like he will vote for, well, he's going to take his seat and will almost certainly vote for a rate cut. So if he goes for a cut, Waller goes for a cut, Bowman goes for a cut, is it your view that everybody else will go for a cut as well?
I think Chair Powell signaled at Jackson Hole a month ago that they were going to go for a cut barring strange data. And I think you'll get unanimity on that, a 25 basis point cut, unless Bowman, Waller, or Moran decide to vote for 50 or something. But I think everybody will vote for some form of cut. And the question is, there's no question it will satisfy President Trump. Question is, how much do the markets react, since they're pricing in pretty aggressive path of cuts? And my expectation is they will vote for a cut. They will indicate what we call a loosening bias or an easing bias, but they won't commit ahead of time to future cuts. And I think the markets may react a little negatively to that.
But we have Jerome Powell, who has clearly said that when the dual mandate is in conflict, you do a balancing act. I'm drawing it on you do right. A balancing act to see which it's going to be and whether it's going to be inflation or whether it's going to be unemployment. The majority, I mean, that Donald Trump talked about, once we get Marin and if we get Lisa Cook and we get Powell seat, we have a majority. We've never heard a president talk about wanting a majority of seats on the FOMC. He sees it incredibly differently.
Yeah, he has, as his behavior towards the UK and foreign governments, as his behavior towards other independent or semi-independent agencies in the US, and arguably, Richard, as his behavior towards Congress. To put it in terms he would use, they believe in the unitary executive, that the president should be in power to appoint and fire people and to control these institutions of government. And there's a lot of good reasons why, in the case of the Federal Reserve, as well as some others, you don't want to do that. It's bad for the country. It's bad for inflation. It's bad for the interest rates you're going to pay. A key point, though, Richard, is what you said about the majority. Leaving aside the issue of their attacks on Governor Cook, the FOMC, as your display showed, is a bunch of members from the reserve banks as well as the 7 members of the Board of Governors in Washington. And As of the moment, Trump does not have a majority. But at the end of the month of February, all the Reserve Bank presidents come up for reappointment. And if he has a majority on the Board of Governors by then he can determine who gets reappointed. And so he would, before too long, potentially have the kind of majority of people responsive to him he wants.
Adam, I'm grateful. Thank you. And thank you for sticking around whilst the plane landed and they got off, got on the helicopter and headed to Winfield House, all things of which you are incredibly familiar from your previous life, if you will, in London. Thank you, sir. We'll talk more.